Welcome back to Plantfield. I'm your host, Callum Weir. If you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you're a returning legend, well, welcome back. So, this episode is very much me on my own and the questions you asked the other day on Instagram. I put out a kind of Ask Me Anything for the podcast. You guys sent in 178 questions, and it's a ton of questions. I'm not going to be able to answer them all. I wish I could. 178 is massive though. I'd be here for hours. Nobody needs a 7-hour episode from me. Normally the episodes are about an hour to an hour and a half. So this one's going to be a lot shorter. I'm probably going to answer, 10, 15 questions at most. We're going to try and keep this to about 30 to 35 minutes and just get out any of the questions that you may have a hankering for. So I kind of gave you free rein on whatever you wanted to know. So that could have been about me personally. That could have been about nutrition. That could have been plant-based eating. That could have been veganism. That could have been my thoughts, unhinged, whatever. It could have been anything. So I've given you guys free rein. I put all 178 questions into a machine and it's just going to pop them out one by one. And hopefully that way, I'm not picking and choosing. I'm not picking the ones that I want. I'm just getting the ones that are given to me. And if there's 178 of them, that there's going to be more episodes to come. However, without further ado, let's get this on the road. Let's dive in. So, first one. I see schools promoting keto and meat, etc. How do you feel about this? I don't know where you're living. I don't know whereabouts in the world you are, but I have never seen a school promote keto. And if a school is promoting keto, they should be looked into, unless it's a specialist school that's maybe looking into seizures, because keto was invented years ago to treat kids with seizures. And then it got obviously picked up as a trend later on down the line where we're just going to cut out carbs and just kind of live on, meat and fats. Vegan keto does exist, but I don't know how it works, and I've never intended to try and understand how it works. However, if a school is promoting keto, that is somewhat a scary thought, because you're telling kids to cut out a whole entire food group, which would be energizing them. We know that carbs energize. We know that a lot of people on a keto diet, for instance, they are fatigued a lot. They maybe have a bit of weight loss, but it's not a sustainable diet. So if any school is promoting ketosis, that's worrying. If it comes to universities, I don't think the university would be promoting that as a whole. I think it would just be students promoting it. When it comes to meat, look, I understand that meat has been a big part of the menu for the last however many years in schools, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. I wish it would. However, I think we have bigger things to worry about first. I think we need to look at, the lobbying part of it. The lobbying from the dairy industry that are forcing schools to have dairy within the school system. Especially when 78% of the world's population are lactose intolerant. I think we need to be looking at the lobbying of the meat industry putting ultra-processed foods on the menu. I think we need to look at that first. We need to look into those. We need to look into the education system. We need to be giving people the education surrounding nutrition, because we don't do that in schools in the first place. We don't teach about, the micronutrients, how to be healthy, how to thrive, survive, be alive. We teach them protein, fats, carbs, and that's realistically about it. We don't get taught much else, and this is why a lot of people are confused. So I think instead of focusing on taking meat off the menu, which is great, I think we need to be lowering, the consumption of meat and having a plant predominant menu, or how some schools and universities are in the world, or having a completely plant-based menu. Amazing. But I think you're going to get a lot of disruption. I think you're going to get a lot of up in the air parents if you just take off meat off the menu straight away without putting education and the choice there to understand what food does, how it works, how it's going to make you feel, like the long-term effects of the food that you're eating. Put an education there first, stop the lobbying, and giving people the choice. So if you give people the education and then you put on the menu, there's a curry with, let's say, beef, but they've just learnt about it being carcinogenic, and there's one with a curry with, like, let's say, tempeh, for instance. Once they have the education there, they're gonna choose the healthier option. They're gonna choose the tempeh. Now, that's not gonna say I'm not gonna say every kid is gonna choose that, but the majority are when they know. And most of the people don't know because they think meat is protein, and they don't think you can get protein from anywhere else. They don't understand the food system. So I think we need to change the food system before we cut out the meat completely. We just need a better understanding. And people need a better understanding of what the food's doing for them. So yes, if you look into, the universities around England and around the world that are having whole food plant-based menus, that's great, but those people also have the education there. A lot of these educational establishments are high educated people. They have plant-based menus for the reason that they know it's healthier for you. We're now seeing this in various hospitals around the world, and we are seeing this in various middle schools, private schools as well. But nothing's going to change unless you change the lobbying above. Nothing's going to change unless you change the education system. Once you've changed those two, then things will trickle down. People will become more educated. But at the moment, people don't understand how food works. So yeah, schools promoting keto, wild. I hate that. Schools promoting meat, it's something that's been happening a while. It's something that's not going to change overnight. And I think we need to change it, but I think we need to change it from above rather than in the schools. Because if you don't have the education there, people won't know what's going on. People won't understand why this food's there. They think they're being malnourished, and they probably think it's a conspiracy. And, the government's trying to make them weak or something. But education first. How about a series of podcasts interviewing vegan ethical business owners about their struggles, ethics, and staying afloat in the current climate? I mean, it's a great idea. It's not something that I haven't not thought about before. I think a lot of vegan business owners, a lot of ethical business owners have these same struggles. At the moment, we're seeing, 75% of all businesses, vegan or not, closing down after their first 3 years, especially when it's a restaurant or, cafe business or, coffee shop business, which is unfortunate. And I think some of these businesses that have been around a long time and haven't been affected by this probably have some kind of strategies in place that could be implemented into other, restaurants, cafes, whatever the business is. I think we all realistically need to work together. So if there's some education surrounding that, some education on how you can all work together, how you could potentially take other people's strategies without taking their business, then it'll be a great idea, because I think we all need to stick together, which, amazing, I think we all should do. And whether or not that this podcast is the podcast for it, I don't know. And I'm sure time will tell. I think there's definitely a time and a place for these conversations, and I'd be more than happy to look into doing those conversations. It's just also finding the businesses that want to actually be open, maybe a bit more vulnerable about their businesses and their struggles, because I know business owners that hold their standards high and pretend that there's no struggles there, when realistically there is within any restaurant. So it's finding the people that will be open to having those conversations. And I know there's probably a few out there, and I'd be more than happy to have those people on. I've had conversations in the past we've had Greg Roseboom on, and talking about his struggles in the past when it came to his restaurant. Luckily, he still has a restaurant. I don't know if all his restaurants are still open, but that was a very vulnerable conversation if you want to check that out. But I'd be more than happy to have more conversations in the future about these struggles, and maybe it might help other people. People might not have thought about how they can implement a strategy that may be able to help them. So, more than happy for that in the future. What do you think about Sophsplantkitchen Weir and Wall, and how it has hurt our message? I don't think it has hurt our message. I literally couldn't care less. Sophie is a legend in her own right. I've seen the attacks that she's had online. I've commented on the post myself, and my actual comment was, if this is what we're all worrying about, if this is what we're realistically annoyed at when there's other things going on in the world, we have lost the fucking plot. There's bigger things to fry out there. Like, a lot of you are treating her like she just started the carnivore diet. She hasn't. She wore a wool hat. Now, ethically, yes, it's wrong. But there's bigger things out there to worry about than her wearing a wool hat. Like, I don't know the circumstances she was in. I know she went on a trip, and I know she went to climb some mountains. And obviously those mountains are going to be cold, so you're going to need things not to freeze your head off. Now, I've spoken to people like Kuntel Joshua before on the podcast, and not all climbing equipment, as much as you can try and be as ethical about it, is going to be vegan friendly. Some is going to have, duck feathers or, wool in it. And it's very hard to find vegan alternatives. And I don't know whether she got given, the hat, or she brought the hat, or she picked it up in a charity shop. I don't know. I do know that she didn't go out there to cause all this hassle. She didn't go out there to be intentionally harming an animal, because she has done so much good for this community. She's got more people eating plants. She's got more people eating plant-based. She's got more people off of meat. She's done the world of good. So if we're just going to, destroy her for wearing a wool hat, yes, it's not the most ethical thing in the world, but the majority of vegans, including me, including you, including, the majority of people, have something with animal products in it. We do. We can go sit, on a chair in a cafe that's probably held together with glue, which is horses. We don't think about that, do we? We don't think about all the various other issues that we have, or animal products that are in things. We do our best we possibly can. And I think sometimes our movement can destroy itself from the inside out, because we're looking for the perfect vegan, and there is no such thing as the perfect vegan. In fact, we just need a load of imperfect vegans to move the movement forward. So yeah, she wore a wool hat. Was it intentional? I don't think so. Does she know it's a mistake now? Yes. I mean, you guys have given her shit for it. Of course she knows it was a mistake. I don't think she went out of her way to disrupt and kind of cause a ripple effect. She just went out and she wore a hat. And I think the majority of you, if you were put into a situation where you're about to freeze to death, and it was either you freeze to death or maybe wear a wool hat, you'd fucking wear it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't let yourself freeze to death. So yeah, yes, it's not the most ethical thing. Sometimes there's not the gear for it. Sometimes you have to have things specially made because the vegan version doesn't exist yet. These things are big factors. So if she's got there and been given gear and it's the only thing that's, there, then so be it. Now, I think a lot of people are probably going to dislike the fact that I've said that. But it's true. Everybody is imperfect. Everybody has fucked up in one way, shape or form. Whether that be you've eaten something by accident, it's been given to you on a menu by accident, there's been some cross-contamination by accident, you've, worn something by accident, you own something by accident, you've been given something by accident. There's so many different variations here, and if we're worrying about somebody wearing a wool hat and her being imperfect over the fact that, there's millions and millions of, animals dying and things like that in the world, then we don't have enough problems. And this is the biggest problem on the agenda, then we have run out of problems completely. She hasn't started the carnivore diet. She hasn't gone out of her way to try and kill something. The girl's been vegetarian since birth. She's a vegan. She's worn a wool hat. Is that imperfect? Yes. Is she perfect? No, no one is. Could she have made a better choice? Maybe. I don't know. I don't know what options were available. But I don't think she would have intentionally gone out of her way to wear something made of animals if she knew what was behind of it. I don't think anybody in her position with what she does would. And I don't think she expected the backlash. And I think the backlash is unnecessary. I think we all need to have a bit of a wobble with our own heads and, and look at the more important things. Well, she's incredible. She does a load of good. She's got more people eating plants. Her recipes are great. I've eaten some of them. Amazing. Yeah, it wasn't great. But if it was out of ignorance, it was out of ignorance. It was never out of... So no, I don't think it's hurt the movement. I think the movement's hurting itself. I think we're focusing on things that don't matter, realistically. I don't think it matters that much when there's so many other issues in the world. So what do I think about Sophsplantkitchen wearing wool? I don't think about it. Don't support wearing wool. But also, one imperfect mistake does not negate all the good she's done in the movement. So, in my eyes, she's still cool. Don't hate her. Do you normally go to vegan camp out? Would you recommend? Norway vegan lady wondering. I have luckily been to the UK one a couple of times. I've also been to the Australian vegan camp out as well. And I would say I would definitely recommend coming over from Norway, spending your time in London, and then going to vegan camp out for food, talks, education, music, everything in between. It's great. You can meet, new friends. You can make old friends. You can meet old friends. You can meet an abundance of different people. You can listen to talks, get educated. Eat an abundance of foods, get fat, and you won't get judged for being the alien. You won't get judged for being the vegan in the group because everybody there is vegan. So I also wouldn't worry about being lonely while you're there. I went a few years ago, signed up to a Facebook group, which was, the loners, the single people going to vegan camp out. And it was a great community. You set up a camp with a load of people that you've never met and you make friends. It was great. I loved every second of it. I would say I enjoy the English one more than the Australian one. There has only been one Australian one. I don't know how well it did, because there's not been another one since. However, love it. Vegan camp out is amazing. Australian one was good. Definitely would recommend both. Would recommend the English one more. And if you do go next year, I'll see you there. I'll be there. We know a predominantly whole foods plant-based diet is best for us. How do we get this across the powers? Perhaps if we all write to our MPs or the studies that back it up and maybe coordinate a campaign. I think. I would love to say I know the answer to this. I have absolutely no idea how it works. I wish I did. I think once again it starts with, the people in power. But I don't think going to the people in power as an angry movement works. I think they get a backup. So I think we need to kind of, work with the doctors, nutritionists, the activists in a calm and timely manner. We need to write to our MPs, maybe with campaigns, with, research to back it up. I think that's a great idea. However, those people don't understand how to read the research themselves. A lot of them don't know how to read studies. A lot of them wouldn't know a study if it hit them in the face. A lot of them wouldn't know how to break it down. So you're going to need an abundance of different people from every different background to help. But I also don't think that as a movement, we help ourselves. And because there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of anger there. And I think it pushes us further back. I think if we went with and I know that a lot of us think that the quicker it happens, the better it's going to be. So let's get angry about it and people will listen. But I don't think that's the case, especially if you're looking towards, implementing this to the wider audience. We need to kind of, while being courageous, be calm. And when we're being calm, we need to actually get across the information, but we need to get across the information without bias, because sometimes we can look very biased. So we need to actually back these things up. So a coordinated campaign would be great, but I think it needs to be led by level-headed people. I don't think it should be led by activists that are pouring blood onto people. I don't think it should be led by people that are causing the most amount of outrage, because these people are seen as disruptive. It should be led by people that are a bit more level-headed, that understand the science, that can actually put across the ideas in a clear and concise and calm way. So I think all those things that you've mentioned are great and definitely worth it. But it needs to be put across properly. I don't think you can just kind of go there with anger. It needs to be peaceful. It needs to be calm, and it needs to come backed up with studies. But also, once again, as we spoke about earlier, there's a lot of lobbying involved, and with that lobbying comes a lot of money. So unless you sort out those issues as well, I don't think things are going to change. And this is why we do have, it's why we have various different campaigns like the Plant-Based Treaty. We have campaigns all across the world that are looking at this, and I think maybe joining up with one of those and talking with your local MPs that may be more open to talking about these things. So look at focused campaigns like the Plant-Based Treaty. I know there's quite a few others. I can't think of their names off the top of my head. Sorry, my voice is going, if you can hear that. And talk to the more open-minded MPs that can actually get things done, that can actually get the ball rolling. There's no point getting, there's no point going over to a very MP that believes in factory farming and things like that, because nothing's going to change. You need to go for the open-minded ones. What is on your bucket list for travel? Ooh. Luckily, I've had the experience of being able to travel all over the world, and I'm very grateful for that. However, there's still a lot of places that I still haven't been to. I think my travel bucket list at the moment is I'd like to explore Canada. I think I would also like to explore Brazil and that part of South America. I've done the top half of South America, so Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and upwards. So the other part of South America I'd love to see. Also, I'd love to see Africa. I'd love to do a bit of Africa, and I think it's a continent in itself. So there's a lot to see. There's a lot to experience, and there's so many other countries that I haven't been to. But I think Canada, the eastern side of South America, and I would say Canada. I think they're my next on the lists. So watch this space. I might be doing content from there soon enough. Anything surprising you learned on your nutrition journey? Yes, there was a multitude of different things, but I think my main takeaway is the fact that so many of us learn so little about nutrition. I think that when you go into school, when you learn about nutrition, you learn about protein, fats, carbs, maybe iron, maybe calcium. And you don't really learn anything else. You don't learn a single thing about any other micronutrients. And I didn't realize there was so many micronutrients, so many things that we need to take care of, so many things that are going to keep us alive, so many things that make us feel alive. For instance, we only hear of obviously B12, but there's vitamin B1 all the way to 9, B12, vitamin A all the way to K2. There's selenium, sodium, zinc, magnesium, manganese, molybdenum. But I think if people were more aware of these things, they might look after their body a bit more. It certainly changed my opinion on nutrition, especially when all I was taught realistically was, this for protein, this for fats, this for carbs, and this for iron, and you're probably fine. You're not just probably fine. There's so many other things we need to take care of, and I think if people had a better understanding, there wouldn't be so many, cases of obesity in the world and issues created by non-nutritious food that you can barely call food. Alcohol, yes or no? I think we actually went past this in a previous episode. I do not drink. I have in the past had a bad relationship with alcohol. Therefore, I do not drink anymore. However, I do not regret my time drinking. I had a lot of fun. It was a social lubricant. I met a lot of people. I met a lot of amazing people. A lot of my friends through being at these places and drinking. I don't think I'd be where I would be today if it wasn't for drinking, if it wasn't for the social lubricant that allowed me to speak to people and build confidence. However, saying that, we do know that alcohol is a toxin, and I don't think it's good for you. I think it is very detrimental to the body. We know this, we have the science. You're always going to get people being like, oh, but wine has antioxidants. Yeah, it does. Doesn't mean it's good for you, though. The antioxidants are coming from the grapes. It's not coming from the alcohol. It's not coming from the ethanol that's coming from it. It's coming from the grapes. And I don't think that relying on, wine for your antioxidant content is a health benefit when it's alongside something known as a toxin that your body cannot use or utilize. Now, if people want to drink once in a while, that's absolutely fine. I don't have an issue with that. I think if you have a relatively healthy diet, it's not really going to affect you in any way, shape, or form. But if you have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, then that normally affects your dietary pattern. I know when I drank, I never used to wake up and eat healthy. I used to eat like shit, and then it would be a consistent. So, if somebody's got their nutrition down and wants to drink once in a while, so be it. But if somebody doesn't have their nutrition or life together in a way that suits them, I think it can be detrimental. And obviously, there's evidence from places like the blue zones where, if you have community and you have whatever else the blue zones have, then yeah, it can probably be healthy. But then we live in a culture where we don't just drink to healthy limits, do we? Especially in my experience. That's not saying that's going to be everybody, but it's either one drink or get absolutely paralytic. And that is, unfortunately, a big issue with countries like England, like America, like Australia. There's no kind of in between. There's no, just having 2 pints. It's either, none or getting absolutely wrecked. So, alcohol for me, no. If you have yourself together, yes, absolutely, go ahead. Or if you have some sort of self-control. What is the perfect salad? Alright, let's cut the crap. There is no such thing as the perfect salad. Perfection is subjective. Your perfect salad might be a mountain of kale. Mine might be something that doesn't taste like rabbit food. But we're talking about nutritionally balanced, filling, and actually enjoyable. And if we're talking about that, then yes, there would be a blueprint. So the perfect salad isn't about lettuce with, sadness sprinkled on top. It's about hitting 4 pillars. So number 1 would be the base. So that would be your volume. That would be your crunch. So that could be your leafy greens. That could be your cabbage. That could be your rocket. That could be your spinach. That could be mixed leaves. Basically, that's kind of the boring foundation that gives you the fiber and makes it look like a salad. Then I would say then you need your protein. This is what's going to keep you full. So whether that be lentils, chickpeas, tofu, tempeh, seitan, edamame, beans. I think the majority of people are going to get hungry again before they even finish washing the bowl. Like, you need your protein source in there, otherwise you're literally fueling nothing. Number 3 would be colour and micronutrients. So this is the actual nutrition that I go on about so much, which is the micronutrients that people just forget about. So we're looking at your tomatoes, your peppers, carrots, beetroot, broccoli, cucumber, red onion, berries, mango. The rule is if it looks beige, you've probably failed. Look at colourful. Then you want fats. Without that fat, you don't absorb half the nutrients. You don't absorb half the good stuff. It just kind of makes your salad taste like grass. You need your base. You need your base. You need your protein. You need your colours. And then I would say if we were to add in a fifth pillar, which would be your extras. So the bit that makes it not boring. So your herbs, your spices, your pickles, hummus, roasted veg, fresh fruit, a bit of hot sauce. This is whatever separates your diet salad from something that you actually want to eat. So for instance, the perfect combo might look something a bit like this. So kind of like the base would be, rocket, shredded red cabbage. Then the protein would be some grilled tofu. Colour, maybe roasted peppers, cucumber, cherry tomatoes, shredded carrots, maybe a sprinkle of lentils. Fat, maybe a tahini and lemon dressing. Maybe a sprinkle of pumpkin seeds on top. And the extra would be a handful of, chopped parsley. A little splash of chili flakes. That way it's not rabbit food. It's balanced, filling, and actually tasty. Any ideas of a protein breakfast that I can literally eat in the car instead of sitting down? Yeah, that breakfast sometimes can be a hard one because nobody's pulling out a bowl of oats at like some traffic lights. So we need to be realistic about this one. You probably want protein handheld and no cutlery required basically. So I'd hit some options would be, I have to think about this one. Maybe protein overnight oats in a jar, but a drinkable version. So blend your oats, some plant protein powder, some soy milk, banana, a spoonful of peanut butter or any nut butter. You want it slightly runnier than you would porridge or oatmeal, depending where you are in the world. So you can sip that straight from the jar or the shaker. Basically breakfast protein with the fibre still. A tofu or tempeh wrap, like a whole grain wrap, stuffed with scrambled tofu or tempeh, spinach, salsa. Then wrap it tight in foil. So it eats like a burrito, so there's no fork, there's not really any mess. Much like the overnight oats being drinkable, maybe a high protein smoothie, so that would be your soy milk or oat milk or whatever milk, nut milk, whatever nut milk. Protein powder, frozen berries, flax seeds, smooth, cold, drinkable. Throw it in a shaker, you're done. Energy balls, protein balls, blend oats, dates, protein powder, nut butter, roll it into golf balls. A couple of those that basically a portable breakfast. And you can snack that one on a red light. Breakfast muffins also. Breakfast muffins I think are underrated. Add some chickpea flour, some vegetables, some nutritional yeast. Baked into a savoury muffin. Eat 2 or 3 on the go. They kind of taste like mini omelettes, but without the mess. And then I think as well, conveniently, store-bought backups. Grab a plant protein bar, ready to go soy protein shake. It's not glamorous. But it's better than I'll just get a croissant and then call it a day. So yeah, you don't really need a sit-down buffet. Your carb breakfast just need a bit of protein, fibre, and something you won't spill on your lap before your meeting. If you eat the good foods that contain all the health benefits, vitamins and minerals, are you still able to eat in a calorie deficit? You are. It's possible. I would like to say that instead of obsessing over hitting every micronutrient every day, just try to hit them over the space of a week, multiple times a week. I don't think you trying to get in every single micronutrient that you could physically need into one day is going to be beneficial to you. I don't think it's going to be beneficial to people's mental health. I think it can be detrimental because you're worrying so much and you don't want to, focus on foods and create some orthorexia eating style in your head where you're worrying about every single little nutrient. As long as you're getting everything over the space of a week multiple times, then you will be fine. Yes, I'd love to be able to say we can get everything in, all the mouthfuls that you need. Realistically, it's a lot harder than it's made out to be, especially if you're in a calorie deficit. Let's say you are eating 1,600 calories a day, for instance, and you're trying to get, a right amount of protein, a right amount of fats, the right amount of, carbs. And you're looking to get your vitamins A to K2. You're looking to get all your B vitamins. You're looking to get all the minerals. You're going to be overwhelmed. So break down all the minerals and vitamins that you need, work out where you can get them from, and then implement them over the week. Don't try to get them in if you're eating a calorie deficit and worrying, because you're going to make things worse, you're going to make things unsustainable, and you're going to make things so much harder than they need to be. Your body does need all these things, and as much as I'd love to say, get them all in over one day. Like the majority of people want. I don't even get everything every day. I wish I could say I did, but no one's perfect. I'm pretty sure unless you're looking at people that have a very strict regime, then most people aren't getting it in every single day. So I think you're going to be absolutely fine. Just try to get everything over the week. If you do want to find out more, I do have a free nutrition guide on all the nutrients that you do need, and you can find that in my link in bio on Instagram or TikTok or the website. So just pop on there, have a little look, download the nutrition guide, and it breaks down everything that you need and where you can get it from. That is all the questions for today. I'd love to do more, but I don't think we've got time. There's also multiple other times that I can answer a lot of these questions, and I'm grateful for every single one of them. So thank you so much for sending them in. As you can tell, my voice is now going, so I'm going to stop here before I lose it completely. But thank you so much. There will be more, and as we are coming up to the end of the year, there will be more episodes and more roundups coming out soon as we hit different milestones in the journey, because every single one of you has pushed this podcast to limits that I didn't ever think were possible. So thank you so much. The following, the followers, the ratings, the shares, the amount of people listening to every episode, thank you so much. And as we hit more and more milestones, I will be doing more about me's, maybe what I've learned in a year, maybe my opinions on things and all sorts. So thank you so much for being here, and if you are new here, make sure that you hit that subscribe, you hit that follow, you share, give it a star rating, whatever the platform you use allows you to do. And if there is anybody that you would like to see on the podcast, please reach out to me and I'll see what I can do. The conversations that you want to hear are, valuable to me, but also valuable to other people that may want to hear the same things. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to shut up now because, as you can tell, sorry, that this voice is slowly deteriorating. Peace out, legends. Peace and plants.